Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I'm the Bucks believer. Tonight, the NBA Finals between the Bucks and the Phoenix Suns kicked off, and Game 1 did not go in the Bucks' favor. They faltered 118 to 105 against the Suns, but there was one sign in particular that was pretty good for Milwaukee tonight. That being the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo. The biggest question coming into this series would be the availability of the Greek Freak. In Game 1, Giannis came off the bat starting right away, and he actually looked pretty good. When he did attack the basket out of side isolations, I thought that he did a pretty solid job of creating solid shots for himself and drawing contact, getting himself to the free throw line. And Giannis also made an impact defensively, especially on a chase down block that he had on a Mikal Bridges transition layup. Giannis was apparently in a minutes limit in tonight's game as he played just 35 minutes. Usually in a high-level playoff game like tonight's, he would be playing upwards of 40, so I'm guessing that Coach Mike Budenholzer had him capped at 35. If Giannis's minutes limit gets extended in Game 2 and moving forward so that he's playing more in that 40 to 42 minute range, it'll definitely help the Bucks out because they were pretty good in his minutes tonight. They were actually a +1, so in the minutes that Giannis played, Milwaukee beat the Suns, so that's definitely a good sign moving forward. Giannis did have some solid stats in this game, scoring 20 points and grabbing 17 rebounds while shooting 6 for 11 from the field and 7 for 12 from the free throw line, but I actually thought that he could have been a bit more aggressive on offense, particularly in transition. I don't remember a single time in this game where Giannis was able to get down the court quickly to get an easy basket on the fast break. So that's an area that he could look to be a bit more aggressive moving forward, but a big part of that also might be the fact that he's coming off of an injury and is not quite at 100% of his usual athletic abilities yet. Overall, this was a great game from Giannis. It was great to see him back on the court, and I'm interested to see how much he'll be able to play in Game 2. The Bucks are going to need everything they can get out of him because the star duo for the Phoenix Suns was absolutely terrific tonight. It all started with Devin Booker, as in the first quarter, Booker was really what gave the Suns the lead. The Suns exited that first period with a 4-point advantage, and that's mostly because of Booker's 12 points scored in that quarter. He would continue to crank out a solid performance through the rest of the game as he scored 27 points, but really he wasn't super efficient as a scorer as he was just 8 for 21 from the field and 1 for 8 from the three-point line in this game. In general, I thought that the Bucks did a pretty solid job of guarding his isolations, and it was more so in the pick and roll where he made them pay. That wasn't always as a scorer directly, but Booker did do a good job of creating contact by using his crafty ball faking ability to lean in and draw some unfortunate fouls on the Bucks' big men in particular as Booker targeted those mismatches, and D-Book was able to get to the free throw line 10 times in this one, and he made each and every one of those. Booker also made the Bucks pay out of the pick and roll with his passing ability. That's not been an area where he's particularly shined throughout his career, but he's always made some impressive passes, and today he had 6 assists, including some really crucial playmaking where he found open three-point shooters out of that pick and roll. He also did a nice job of finding DeAndre Ayton on the roll, as Ayton had a huge night for Phoenix in this one, scoring 22 points and 19 rebounds while shooting 8 for 10 from the field and 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Ayton was a huge impact player in this game for the Suns, and that came mostly off of what Jeff Van Gundy called the 3 R's. Run, rebound, and roll. Ayton's role in this game didn't consist of much more than grabbing rebounds, running down the court, setting screens, and darting to the basket. He did all of that at a very high level, did a great job of being very impactful, and he really made the Bucks pay with this huge stat night of his. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks choose to guard him moving forward, as tonight they basically switched 1 through 5 as they did in games 5 and 6 against the Atlanta Hawks. That led to Brook Lopez guarding Devin Booker or Chris Paul on the perimeter, and a smaller player like Drew Holiday or PJ Tucker guarding Ayton inside, and Ayton absolutely smashed those smaller players on the block as he was able to generate some really easy dunks and lay-ins for Phoenix in this one. So whether or not the Bucks adjust and play that pick and roll defense differently is going to be intriguing moving forward, especially when you consider the pick and roll genius of Chris Paul. Paul did a great job of finding Ayton and as well as Booker in this game, as CP3 had 9 assists of his own, but really where Paul made an impact in this one was as a scorer. And that comes despite him not scoring a single point in that first quarter. From there on out, Paul was dominant, scoring 32 points on 12 for 19 shooting from the field and 4 for 7 shooting from the three-point line. He did a great job of smashing mismatches of all kinds as he targeted Bucks bigs and smalls alike. Most of it came against Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, as Paul was frequently running pick and rolls where he would get one of those two players switched onto him. Those guys aren't quick enough to keep up with CP3 on the perimeter, so Paul was able to generate a little bit of space for himself, and from there he was able to knock down his pull-up and step-back jump shots from the three-point line and mid-range alike at a very high rate. He also got to the free throw line 4 times, including a crucial play where he made a step-back three-pointer over Brook Lopez and caught Lopez sneaking into his landing area. That ended up being a flagrant foul on Brook, and that led to CP3 having a 4-point play, and the Suns had another possession afterward as a result of the flagrant fouls. So really, just a fantastic game from Chris Paul, and the Bucks are probably going to have to switch up their defense to avoid him from being able to take advantage of those mismatches so much. As well as killing Lopez and Portis, he also targeted Pat Connaughton and Bryn Forbes in this game, so I think the Bucks are probably going to have to keep Jrue Holiday or PJ Tucker on him for more frequent amounts of time throughout the rest of this series. The issue that comes there is how the Bucks are going to possibly guard the pick and roll, because they tried out the drop coverage in this game as well, and it failed pretty miserably on the few possessions that Bud broke it out in the second half, as Paul was easily able to get to his spot in the mid-range, rise up, and knock down that mid-range fadeaway that we've seen so frequently over the past couple of years. CP3 clearly won the point guard battle, as Jrue Holiday really struggled in this game in a variety of ways. Jrue had 10 points on just 4 for 14 shooting and 0 for 4 shooting from the three-point line, and honestly, a lot of those stats are actually improved by what was a solid fourth quarter for Jrue, as he had 4 points on, I think, only 2 shots. So a nice fourth for Jrue, but overall he really struggled. The main area that I saw as a problem for him was his shot selection, as he frequently was settling for pull-up jumpers both from 3 and the mid-range early on in the shot clock, when he should have tried to run through the Bucks offense a bit more thoroughly. This has been a problem for Jrue throughout the playoffs, and as usual, tonight when he was looking to attack the basket late in the shot clock, he was able to generate some very easy points for himself and teammates, as he dished out 9 assists in this game. One play that I thought worked particularly well was when Holiday tried to post up Chris Paul, as Jrue was able to push himself towards the middle of the paint, and he easily rose it up and finished a floater over CP3. So if Holiday has the shorter Paul on him, that's a matchup advantage that the Bucks could look for a little bit more often. I get that CP3 is a great defender, but Holiday is a really good post-up player for a guard, and he's able to take advantage of CP3 being a smaller guy. Holiday also had some unnecessary gambles on defense that led to him getting beat by the player he was defending, and he also had some questionable turnovers. He only had 3 turnovers to his 9 assists, and that 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is fantastic, but each and every one of those turnovers was preventable, as they all came on passes where Jrue tried to advance the ball ahead in fast break when there was simply nothing there. So if Holiday can eliminate those, his playmaking is going to shine through even brighter, as he will eliminate the turnovers and hopefully dish out a few more assists. Fortunately for the Bucks, Chris Middleton stepped up in a big way as Holiday struggled. Middleton's first half wasn't particularly fantastic, as he had just 12 points on 5 for 15 shooting, so not efficient whatsoever, but in the second half, Middleton really stepped it up. He had 17 points on 7 for 11 shooting and got a red-hot stretch in the third quarter, as he kept the Bucks in the game, kept the Suns lead around 10-14, when really, if it weren't for him, it probably would have risen above 20, and it did get up to 20 at one point, but really this was a nice shot-making game from Chris, as he once again proved that he is a reliable playoff scorer, putting in 29 points on 12 for 26 shooting from the field and 5 for 12 shooting from the three-point line in this game. With all of this being said, it's pretty clear that the only member of the big three for the Bucks that played poorly was Jrue Holiday. If he can step it up, it definitely improves their chances to win, but I'm not sure that it takes them all the way to the point where they would win this game. They're also going to have to make some adjustments strategically. I think that the biggest adjustment that they could make is playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo at the center instead of Brook Lopez or Bobby Portis. That's because the small ball unit worked really well for the Bucks when they used it during the fourth quarter. Probably their best stretch of basketball in this game came in the first half of that fourth quarter, where they were using a lineup of Drew Holiday, Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. During that stretch, they brought the Suns' lead from 20 points all the way down to, I think, 7, and it was working quite well, especially on offense, where they were really able to take advantage of the subpar Suns defenders. And it also worked on defense, where they were able to force the Suns' worse offensive players into taking shots. I thought that the smaller players for the Bucks did a really nice job coming off the bench in this one, as Pat Connaughton had 8 points and while making 2 3-pointers in his 28 minutes of play. Jeff Teague, who I'm not a huge fan of, actually was solid, as he made his 1 3-point attempt and also had a nice assist to BJ Tucker for a 3-pointer in the 10 minutes that he played. And finally, Bryn Forbes was pretty solid. He only played 12 minutes, so I think that he definitely could play a bit more. But in those 12 minutes, he had 6 points on 2 for 4 3-point shooting, and a few of those were, I guess both of those came off of assists from Giannis, where Forbes started off of a dribble handoff and ended up with a wide open corner 3. I think the other one was from the top of the key, but it was a similar play. So more minutes for each of those 3 guys and less minutes for Bobby Portis, who struggled his way to a -10 rating in 14 minutes of play tonight, I think would be a good call for Coach Bud. Portis had a huge series against the Hawks, but against the Suns, where he's going to be switching on to elite pick and roll players like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, I just don't think that this is a great series for Portis, which is actually contrary to something I said in my series preview video. But after tonight, it's not looking so good for Bobby P, and I think the Bucks should probably try to use their small ball a bit more often. I also would understand if Coach Bud tries to ride it out with his tried and true formula a little bit more, as the Bucks are only down 1-0 at this point, and they still have some room to play around and see what groups work the best for them. I do think that Brook Lopez should still get some minutes, probably around 20, as tonight he was effective on offense, as he worked his way to 17 points on 7 for 14 shooting and 3 for 5 from the 3-point line. His wide open 3-point bombs actually kept the Bucks in this game during one stretch in the third quarter, and he also was a reliable player in transition, as he did a nice job of leaking out and catching those dump ahead passes that Drew Holiday throws occasionally. He also was a threat in the pick and roll, as he caught a lob pass from Chris Middleton on an ATO. So a solid game from Lopez on offense. He did struggle on defense, as the Suns targeted him in pick and roll, and that's a big reason why Brook ended up having a -17 plus-minus in this game. But overall, I still would like to ride it out with Lopez a bit, and honestly, I still think that Portis should play a little bit in the first half of Game 2 to see if he can still be a viable option for the Bucks in the front court rotation. The last thing I want to touch on here a little bit is the officiating. The Suns shot 26 free throws in this game, and the Bucks only shot 16. A, the Bucks need to make more of their free throws, as they were 9 for 16 opposed to the Suns 25 for 26. But B, the Bucks should have shot closer to the amount of free throws that the Suns did, or in the other direction, the Suns should have shot less free throws. Chris Middleton shot 0 free throws in this game, and that's an issue for me because Middleton's methods of foul drawing are very similar to what Chris Paul and Devin Booker do. He's great at using crafty ball fakes and then leaning into defenders and drawing the contact before going to the line. Middleton did that on a few occasions tonight, and he did not get the calls, and those same calls the whistle was being blown in favor of Paul and Booker, and that's a big reason why D-Book shot 10 free throws in this game. If you're going to blow that whistle on one end, you got to blow it on the other. And considering the fact that the same play came up on both sides of the court and it was officiated differently, it was a problem for me. The Suns were the home team in this game, so perhaps that played into it a little bit, but that's a problem, and I think that the officials need to clean that up heading into Game 2. Overall, this was a frustrating game for the Bucks to lose. It really would have been key if they could have continued their comeback in the fourth quarter and found a way to steal this game on the road, but there were some good signs, and I definitely think that they still have a really good shot at winning this series. Game 2 is a big one, so they're going to have to go out and fight to win that away game, and if they can, this still seems like a very manageable series for the Bucks. Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this game. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.